नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितः प्रज्ञानघनः प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शंकरं लोकशंकरं शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ओम। यः सर्वज्ञः सर्ववित् यः सर्वज्ञः सर्ववित् यस्यैष महिमा भुवि यस्यैष महिमा भुवि दिव्ये ब्रह्मपुरे ह्येष दिव्ये ब्रह्मपुरे ह्येष व्योम्न्यात्मा प्रतिष्ठितः व्योम्न्यात्मा प्रतिष्ठितः मनोमयः प्राणशरीरनेता मनोमयः प्राणशरीरनेता प्रतिष्ठितोऽन्ये हृदयं सन्निधाय प्रतिष्ठितोऽन्ये हृदयं सन्निधाय तद्विज्ञानेन परिपश्यन्ति धीराः तद्विज्ञानेन परिपश्यन्ति धीराः आनन्दरूपममृतं यत् विभाति आनन्दरूपममृतं यत् विभाति। Last time we saw Prana Sharira Neta, the one who leads the Prana Sharira means Sukshma Sharira. The same Atman, Yah Sarvagna Sarvavit Yasyesha Mahima Bhuvi, the same Atman leads the subtle body and it takes it. Which Atman? As though which resides Divye Brahmapure Tishtati. We have seen this in detail. The self is all pervasive. How can you give a location to self? And when you say the self is formless, since it is formless and all pervasive, it cannot have a location. What does it mean by Divya Brahmapure? Divya means literally heaven, but here is light, effulgence, means knowledge. And Brahmapuri, where Brahma is Upalabdha. Upalabdhi sthanatvat. Since it is obtained, it is recognized in Buddhi, this is called Brahmapuri. That is a location for Brahman. Divye Brahmapure, Vyomni Atma Pratishtitaha, self reside. That self, which is all pervasive, leads. Subtle body by itself doesn't go when it is led by the consciousness, the Atma. Which Atma? All pervasive, no. The self that is conditioned by subtle body. The self which is identified with the subtle body. Condition means identified. That self, that individuality. Please understand, what do we know by this? The fellow who is ignorant. Because of self-ignorance, there arises an individuality of the size of subtle and gross body. That individuality thinks itself to be separate from the entire world. That individuality is there when you are born, and it is there when one dies, unless one removes the self-ignorance while alive. One works to remove the self-ignorance. That individuality is caused by ignorance, and therefore it is not true. That individuality is not real. It is born out of ignorance, self-ignorance. And how does the self-ignorance come? Why does the self-ignorance come? There is no answer. Therefore, it is said, anirvachya avidya. You cannot describe it. You cannot explain it. That ignorance gives rise to individuality. Sense of individuality is the jivatma, and that lives. It is like saying movement of the pot space. The space which identifies with the walls of the pot thinks itself to be the size of the pot that moves. And how, what is the reason for moving? The karma phalas. Prana sharira neta. The karma phalas of purva janmas takes the jivatma to different body. There you are. Power is gone. Anyway, can you see me? Hold on, I'll get a torch or something. It takes that sense of individuality, travels from one body to another body. Now, here the phalam of this knowledge is being told. Manomayaha, which is pratisthito anne, that we have seen, abides in the body. Hridayam sannidhanaha, presiding in that. Tad vignanena paripashyanti dhiraha ad ananda rupam amrutam yad vibhati. Yad amrutam, yad ananda rupam, tad dhiraha paripashyanti vignanena. Having gained the self-knowledge. That knowledge, vignanena paripashyanti. By knowledge, they see. Paripashyanti vignanena. Now, what is vignana? Shankaracharya writes, Vishishtena Shastra Acharya Upadesha Janitena Gnanena. Gnanam, Vignanam. Vignanam means Vishishta Gnanam, the special knowledge. What is the speciality of this knowledge? Two ways you can look at it. The speciality is in terms of this is a knowledge of the self, not an object outside you, and that is the moksha gnana, the gnanam which gives you moksha. And vignanena, what is a special knowledge? It has to be gained from a teacher through Shastra. Shastra Acharya Upadesha Janita Vishishta. What is the speciality of this knowledge? This knowledge is born out of Upadesha of an Acharya, that which is based on Shastra. Understand? Shastra is a pramanam for self-knowledge. Why do Shabda is a pramanam? Apta Vakya is a pramanam. Why you say so? Because the self being Nitya Praptaha, anything that is Nitya Praptaha, to gain that Nitya Prapta Vastu, words are the pramanam. And here, in particular, though it is Nitya Prapta, there is a confusion. What is that? It is not simply ignorance of the self. There is misapprehension about the self. Not that I do not know the self, but the self is known to be something other than what it is. That being a case, you need a teacher, you need a means of knowledge, that is Shabda, and you need a teacher also. Why? The first job of the teacher is to knock off what I am not. In my cognition, the self-cognition, there is something which I am not. That should be knocked off. And then that which is beyond the direct meaning of the words is revealed through lakshyartha, through implied meaning. We have seen this in earlier mantras. Since the implied meaning is to be communicated properly, the teacher should know how to handle the words so that there is no more confusion, nor there is mysticism about it. Those acharyas or those people who talk Vedanta, but they do not understand this thing very clearly about the means of knowledge. They make it mystic. This Shastra is not an experiential thing. It is something to be communicated and known thoroughly. When I say they make mystic, that means they make it something to be experienced, which is not the case. So, this is to be communicated properly, and for that, you need a teacher. Therefore, Vijnanena, what he says, Paripashyanti Dhiraha. Now the question comes, Anandarupam Amrutam Pashyanti. But then, even if there is a proper means of knowledge available, there are two things involved. Adequate and proper means of knowledge and adequate student. Adhikari student is also necessary. And for that, even if there is a competent teacher, even if the teacher knows how to handle the words of the Shastra, and he is willing to teach and the teacher is teaching, but if the student is not ready, knowledge doesn't take place. And the classic example of this statement is Dhritarashtra. See, when we chant this Gita, the first verse of Bhagavad Gita is Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre. Now, if it is an Upadesha of Lord Krishna to Arjuna, how does Dhritarashtra come into picture? The answer is simple. On the 10th day, when Bhishma fell, let me go still further back. When the war was declared, Vedvyasji was there with Dhritarashtra and he wanted to help him. So he said, I have a Yoga Shakti power. Siddhis caused due to yoga, that I can, even though you are born blind, I can empower you to see this battle. Not only see the battle, you can hear what is going on far away in Kurukshetra. And all those days, you will not feel sleepy. There will be no tamas tamas will not touch you. You will never feel lazy, no sleepy, no hunger, no thirst. And you can see that. Dhritarashtra apprehended defeat because he knew very well that we are on the side of adharma. Therefore, he didn't want to see. And defeat means killing, that's all. The victorious alone would survive. That was very clear. So he suspected the death of his own sons. And he didn't want to see that. So he requested Vedvyasji to give this Divya Drashti called divine vision, divine capacities to his minister come advisor, come charioteer. Sanjaya. You bestow this power to Sanjaya, and he made a deal with Sanjaya that you should not utter a single word unless I ask you. So, and it was given. The wars began. Sanjaya was quietly watching the war. He could not say a single word. We could not make any commentary. Like those when we were children, पहली मूंगी पिक्चर जो था अंदर पर देखो देखो दिल्ली का ताजमहल, देखो देखो दिल्ली का कुतुब मीनार, देखो, and they will show only pictures and commentary will come from outside. So like Sanjay मूंगी पिक्चर की तरह देखा उसने. 10th day when Bhishma fell, this just came out of it. Oh, Bhishma fell. And that was a shock to Dhritarashtra because he just couldn't believe it. Bhishma was blessed with so much of power, and then he was blessed of Ichha Mrityu. He can choose his own death. He was almost invincible. Nobody can defeat him. And that invincible person fell. So he said, how did this happen? That's how Gita, the first verse is Dhritarashtra was. Kima Kuruvata Sanjay, what did they do? So that my sons and Pandavas, what did they do that led to this point after 10 days? Sanjaya, being a very wise minister, he took this opportunity to start from day one. He could have simply replied by saying, Arjuna kept Shikhandi in front of him, and Bhishma had a vow not to hit a woman. So he could not throw any arrows towards Arjuna, and he kept on piercing him. That's all it was. But then he thought better sense may prevail. He wished better sense may prevail on Dhritarashtra. So let me start from the day one before the commencement of battle. So he narrated the entire Gita with its background. That was the one thing that had happened on the day one. What you can say video recording. He showed it to Sanjay, video audio. Having heard Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna on the first day said, Nasto moha karishye vachanam. My delusion is gone. I know what should I do and who am I. And he started fighting. Dhritarashtra didn't say anything. Nothing happened to him. In effect, you can say the teaching did not touch him, did not change him, because he was not ready for it. Unless you are prepared for the knowledge, the words will not speak to you. The words will not reveal to you. Words will not, they say, blast you, This is a new word I came through. This yoga fellow says, I met my teacher in meditation. My God, it was such an energy blast. I don't know what blast it happens, but at least when we study, there is a clarity blast, there's a clarity blast. I see now, So that blast will not happen if you are not ready to listen. So Shankaracharya ji adds here, Shastra Upadeshena Gnanena. But then knowledge takes place to whom? Shama Dama Dhyana Sarvatyaga Vairagya Udbhutena Gnane. Okay? Shama Dama Tyaga Vairagya Udbhuta. The knowledge is born in your head. The words can reveal you. It is like the words are like the seeds planted by the teacher. But provided the land is ready for germination of the plant, sprouting the seed. And what kind of kshetram is necessary? He just tells Shamadama, Vairagya, etc. Two things. Why you say Shamadama? The Shama, it is mastery over one's own emotions. Vairagya can be cognitive. One can understand the things, limitations of the things. And it can be emotive also. To begin with, it is purely cognitive. When one keeps on analyzing one's own experiences, we have seen this in earlier classes, Vairagya means objectivity, freedom from the hold of likes and dislikes. Likes and dislikes constitute your subjectivity. Vairagya is simple. Viraktaha is a simple person who is just objective. A doctor is an objective to patient, provided patient is not his wife, someone else's wife. He is objective. This is a problem and this has to be dealt with this way. That is Vairagya, that is objectivity. In every situations, in every possessions, what I possess, in every relations, I respond objectively. That is Vairagya. That requires processing one's own emotions. That requires certain attitude. Of course, born out of understanding about the thing, the nature of the thing. And then when there is relative objectivity in dealing with the world, there is a Vairagya, one needs Shamadama also. Because there is something called unconscious. There is something called Kashaya. There is something called samskaras, or what they call it, vasanas, whatever they say. That thing overpowers one's objectivity. One becomes very, you can say, reactive or instinctuals. There are certain vulnerable areas where raga dveshas have their hold. One needs to process that is called Shama and Dama. Shama Dama Vairagya Tyaga Udbhutena. Sarva Tyaga Vairagya Udbhutena. And the word Dhyanam here is not Nididhyasanam. You can say, to begin with, in context of Shamadama, Dhyana is sort of internalizing the study, being self-observant, self-analytic. And in a secondary stage, Dhyana means Nididhyasana. When one lives a life of Nididhyasana, coupled with Shamadama Vairagya, knowledge takes place. In other words, there is Adhikaritvam. As somebody very rightly said, to say everything is Ishvara, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. To come to that point, one need to give up mamatva. This belongs to me. One needs to discover that nothing belongs to me. The sense of ownership is improper. One may own a few things for vyavhara sake. One may use them and possess them. But sense of ownership doesn't belong to me. It is improper, it is illegitimate to give up the sense of ownership. One has to appreciate that everything belongs to Ishvara. And that is called Shamadama Adhikaritva Vairagya. Okay? And from that, Paripashyanti Dhiraha. Then he says, Atma Tattva Vijnane. Vijnana means knowing what I am and what I am not. Clarity about what I am and clarity about what I am not is that knowledge. Then the teacher gives that, the teaching works that, and then he sees what? Ananda Rupam Amrutam Paripashyanti Dhiraha. Okay. Ananda Rupam Amrutam Yad Vibhati. Yad that shines always, means that is self-revealing always. That self which is Ananda Rupam, of the nature of Ananda, and Amrutam, Namrutam iti Amrutam, that which is immortal, that one sees. Okay. Now, Ananda Rupam means Sukha Swarupam. Okay. And Paripashyanti Visheshena Bhati. That Sukha Swarupam Atmanam Paripashyanti Dhiraha. That we have seen earlier, how the self is Sukha Swarupam and Amruta Swarupam. So I will not get into that detail. We will go to next mantra. Dhiraha here primarily means Vivekinaha, those who are discriminative persons. Look at the next mantra, very famous mantra. Vidyate hridaya granthihi, vidyate hridaya granthihi, chidyante sarva samshayaha, chidyante sarva samshayaha, क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि, क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि, तस्मिन् दृष्टे परावरे, तस्मिन् दृष्टे परावरे, विद्यते हृदय ग्रन्थिः, छिद्यन्ते सर्व संशयाः, क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि, तस्मिन् दृष्टे परावरे, विद्यते हृदय ग्रन्थिः, छिद्यन्ते सर्व संशयाः, क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि, तस्मिन् दृष्टे परावरे. This is the phalam of the knowledge. Earlier mantra, it said he sees, he knows. Anandam Amrutam Atma. But then what do I get out of this Anandam Amrutam Atma? That is what is being revealed here. Tasmin Paravare Drashte. When. Tasmin means when. It is a Kalavachi. When Paravara Brahma means that Brahman which is the cause and effect both. Drashte, when it is recognized, when one recognizes Brahman or the self as both cause and effect, three things happen. What? Vidyate Hridaya Granthi. The Hridaya Granthi. Granthi means knot. Hridaya Granthi, the knot of the heart, means knot of the buddhi, knot of the mind. It's a mental knot. You know, when you tie two ropes, you make a knot and tie them together. It's a mental knot. That knot, vidyante, okay? So it resolves. Vidyante hridaya granthihi, chidyante sarva samshaya. All the doubts, sarva means all, samshayas means doubts. All the doubts, chidyante, they get resolved. Acha, kshiyante chasya karmani. Asya purushasya. This person who has gained the knowledge, all the karmani kshiyante. All the karmas get destroyed. They get exhausted. That is what the meaning. So when one sees the Brahman or the self as the cause as well as the effect, the mental knot is resolved, all the doubts are resolved, and all karmas are exhausted. Okay. Yeah, okay. Now see this one by one. This mantra, as I said, very famous mantra, often quoted by acharyas, present in the past, and you can see this reference in Bhashyam also. Bhagavad Bhashyakara also refers to this mantra often. Understand what it is. Para and avara. This word we have come across in the beginning also. The first third in the first canto, Mundak Upanishad. Then evam parampara praptam, when we said that while he says, the teacher tells to Shishya, and Shishya Ankas, hold on. First month, second mantra, Atharvane yam praveda brahma, atharvatam puro angire uvacha brahma vidyam, sabharadvajaya satyavahaya praha, bharadvajo angirase paravara. Paravara Shabda has come there in the very first canto, second mantra. Para means that which is before, earlier. Avara, that which is later, afterwards. There, before and after is in a sense of Guru Shishya. Paravaram, it's a tradition. Every teacher taught this to their students. That is the Paravaram. Angirase Paravaram. Bharadwaja was a teacher, Angirasa was student. So Bharadwaja taught to Satyavaha. Satyavaha, etc., teacher Brahma Vidya, Angira, etc., Guru Shishya Parampara. Here, that which is before, which was that before, and that which is afterwards. He says what? Drashte paramare. All the doubts disappear. All karmas get exhausted, and the mental knot is resolved. That when you see before and after. So from the context, here, before is the cause, and after is effect. It is true also. Cause is always before the effect, and the effect is always after the cause. So, that which is cause as well as the effect. Okay? What is it? Or with what reference you are talking about? Whose cause and what is the effect? Then you have to say this effect of, if the cause of everything. An effect that is everything. That means Jagat is the effect and the cause is Brahman. Brahman is the cause. The reference goes to again the first section. When it is said, Yathornanapi srujate grunnate, Yatha prithivyam oshade sambhavanti, Yatha sataf purushat keshalomani, Tatha aksharat sambhavati avishwam. When he sees Brahman, that which is cause as well as the effect. Both. What does it mean? That which is cause and that is also effect. What does it mean? That which is the Jagat is also Brahman and the cause of the Jagat is also Brahman. How is it possible? Varavara. That is possible when the so-called effect is manifestation. When one sees the gold as the cause and as 100,000 ornaments. Our famous example of Pujya Swamiji. All 100,000 ornaments out of 1 ton gold. Gold is a cause, 100,000 ornaments are effect. That 100,000 ornaments are nothing but gold. So that which is the cause and effect means that Brahman, which is the creator, and that creator for whom the creation is not separate from Brahman. When you say creation, please understand this totally. All Pancha Mahabhutas are non-separate from Brahman. And since Pancha Mahabhutas are not separate, entire Jagat born out of Pancha Mahabhutas, therefore we call it Pancha Bhautikam Jagat, is also not separate from Brahman. First point. That being a case, just we can understand what is Hindu culture. Since it is not separate from Ishvara, from Brahman, we can look upon it as Brahman, since it is not separate from it. And therefore, everything is worshipped. Pancha Mahabhutas are worshipped. Chidambaram, the Ishvara, is worshipped as space, Akash. Yeah. Then there are Pancha Mahabhutas. I have talked this earlier. This is one. When you say Brahman, it often in Shastras and in Bhashya, Ishvara word is also used for Brahman. Therefore, Upanishad says, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarva. Everything is Ishvara's manifestation and not separate. Point number 2. When I say everything, it includes my physio-psycho complex as well. My body is also Ishvara. Everything that is within the body and that is without the body is Ishvara. And therefore, we put to here on the body. Okay? We do this chandanam, kunkumam, it is Ishvara. Therefore, when we take bath, we chant the shloka Gange Jamune Cheva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Chalesmin Sannidhim Kuru. Now we have to change it because those days they were taking shower in the river. So they say Jalesmin, in this water. We have to say now Shavare Asmin. Or if it is America, Tabe Asmin, in this bathtub, all Saptanadhya, Sandhidhim Guru, may you come here. That means Snanam is looked upon as Abhishek to the Ishvara. See, this is the principle, and people fight. You should do puttu this way, no, this way, or Namaman. All kinds of things they fight. and then you should do Kankumbam, and somebody said, no, you should do Vibhuti, and no, you should have Chandanam, which is all unwarranted fight. Bhagavan doesn't want this or that. It is, I am sure when Krishna was born, he must not be doing you. Our Vallabhacharya's devotees have Krishna with you only. Because he never, I don't think he had a you. And if he had a you, that's fine. It is his choice, not necessarily a symbol of sampradaya. Anyway, my body, mind also. So we maintain pavitrata, purity of the body. Chastity and all those things were maintained in our culture because body is something pavitra. Third thing, If everything is Ishvara means what? That sense of individuality that I carry with myself all the time. The Jiva is also Ishvara. Paravara. Okay? Then you have to see this. Tasmin drashte paravara. Recognizing that individual is Ishvara total. Recognizing my physio-psycho complex is manifestation of Ishvara. And the entire Jagat is manifestation of Ishvara. Therefore, very beautifully put by our Gujarati poet Narsi Mehta, Brahma lataka kare Brahma sat. The cause is Ishvara, effect is also Ishvara's manifestation. In other words, to see Paravara means to see the truth of this statement. What? Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. You have to see this clearly. Or appreciate this Mahavakya, Aham Purna. By the way, by chanting Mahavakyas, you don't become enlightened. You have to study Shastra. And you have to gain necessary clarity about the meaning of the Vakya. And then when you bring back to your mind, then you may gain some clarity. But simply repeating Mahavakyas doesn't enlighten the person. Anyway, Tasmin drashte paravare. Okay. What it says, drashte. When one sees. Listen, when one recognizes oneself as both, that is a knowledge. When I recognize that Aham Jagat Karanam Brahma, I am the cause of the entire creation. That recognition, born out of the clarity gained from the teachings of a competent teacher of the Shastra, through a competent teacher, and one owns up this vision. Tasmin drashte paravare. Okay. And I therefore add, this body also is Ishvara's manifestation. Even Shrungara, men used to have earrings because it's a manifestation of Ishvara. Men used to have this puttu. It is a manifestation of Ishvara. I mean, I'm doing Shrungara to Ishvara. That was an attitude. Anyway, now the word drashte. Seeing is often used in Shastra. We have to look at the implied meaning of the word seeing. Okay? There is no real seeing. Because when you say seeing, if you say literal meaning vachyartha, then Brahman becomes an object. The famous dialogue of Yajnavalkya and Maitreyi is there, Atma vare drashtavyaha shrotavyaha mantavyaha nididhyasitavyaha. Atma should be seen. Why it is said seeing? Seeing means one should gain knowledge with clarity, free from any doubt, any error. When you hear something, there can be some error in your knowledge. You may mistake something else to be something. But when you see, there is no error and no doubts. Therefore, even in the court of law, the attorneys present a witness. If there is a criminal case, they say, sir, it is eyewitness. When it is eyewitness, it is final. So it's a usage to imply the knowledge without any doubt and error, means samshaya viparyaya rahitam gnana. That you gain the knowledge without any doubts and error. And so when one has this knowledge that I am everything, I am Jagat Karan. Jagat, so-called Jagat is mithya. So-called Jagat is only Namarupaatmaka, names and forms. Even the situations are mithya. They are affecting the mithya body, not me. That clarity. Am Atma, Sakshi Swarupa Atma, Chit Swarupa Atma. Let it be. When you say mithya, then people may think, how can you say this to be mithya? I am really feeling it. Yes, the feeling is mithya. And what is felt is mithya. And the feeler is also equally mithya. The experiencer, the experienced, and the very experience is mithya. Means in reality, it is only one consciousness manifesting as all the three. That clarity is Pashyanti Dhiraha. Paripashyanti. In the previous mantra, there also Pashyanti. It is Paripashyanti. Here, Drashte. What it is says, then what happens? Vidyate Radaya Granthi. The Granthi of the knot. Knot. Granthi means knot. What kind of knot is there? So, it's a peculiar knot. A knot ties two ropes, which are distinct and separate, but when you knot them, they get tied up. What is tying up here? What is the knot here? Of Atma, Anatma knot. What kind of knot it is? I, Atma and Anatma means what? I and what is not I. They are together. Means what? I, in the sense of I, there is something what is I am not. In I sense. That is a knot. What is I am not? When I say I am born, my birthday, my marriage anniversary, etc., that I is taken to be body. But body, question is this gross body I or not I? The gross body cannot be I, because I cannot be the object, because I am the subject. Since I am the subject, I cannot be the object. Gross body is an object of knowledge. For I, the subject, I know my body. I know my condition of the body. I know the conditions of the eyes, etc. When person says, I am blind, there is not I in I. What is not I? The blindness belongs to eyes. And you see the eyes. Listen this sentence carefully. You see what eyes see, and you see what eyes don't see also. I know what eyes know, and I also know what eyes don't know. Similarly, you also know your body. The whole physio-psycho complex is not I. That has gone in, that has been tied to I. I takes to be itself to be physio-psycho complex. A typical Indian example is encroachment of the land. जमीन दबाई पाड़ी से बीजा नहीं, आत्मा है, अनात्मा दबाई लीधो छे. The self has extended its boundaries to what the self is not. So avidya granthi, I would say self encroachment. बता ये सब भाई लोग हैं बम्बई का, बीजानी जमीनों पचाई पाड़े. So there is a self encroachment. Now why it happens? Only plausible answer is avidya. But why there is avidya? There is no answer. Why I confuse like this? Because of self-ignorance. Why do I take self, not self as a self? Look at this. Let me frame this sentence differently. It will explain this sentence. An example. I am framing the example differently. When one sees a snake in place of rope, one person says it's a rope. He says, no, it's snake. And there is a little argument, and this person says, if it is a rope, how do I see a snake? Frame this sentence differently. If it is a rope, how do I see non-rope? The answer is what? Ignorance. That's all. Similarly, how do I take non-self as a self and become nonsense and create a nonsense out of myself? I see non-self as a self. Atmani anatmanah adhyaropa, technically. What is the answer? Ignorance. Therefore, it is called avidya granthi, born out of self-ignorance. An actor taking himself to be the role in a real life starts thinking, I am the king, and starts conducting as a king or a beggar, whatever. This behavioral change, behaving as non-self, the Vyavaharic self, is because of what? Self-ignorance. That person needs to be told, hey, you are not a beggar, you are this. Non-self is to be negated and the real self is to be unfolded. So, avidya grantihi. So, it is not ignorance not. The not that is caused by ignorance. Okay? So, the problem is avidya. So, avidya has caused the problem, and therefore it can be solved by knowledge. Tasmin drashte paravati. Because ignorance cannot be removed except by knowledge. And knowledge cannot remove anything other than ignorance. When there is a question or a problem of self-ignorance, self-knowledge alone is a means and nothing else. And therefore it says, drashte paravare. When one has recognized the truth as himself or herself, and then this knot of ignorance is removed, and then one becomes free from all karmas. Vidyate hridaya grantihi chhidyante sarva samshaya. All the doubts get resolved, and all karmas, which are infinite in number, they get destroyed. How? We will explain in the next class tomorrow. Because karmas being ananta, they are limitless. You cannot destroy them. Yes, you can destroy them because you can destroy the very, very substratum, very adhara of these karmas. And when that is being destroyed, they stand destroyed. How? We'll see it tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Namaste.